covering you actually really has been a humbling experience for me because back when you guys went public, everyone in my newsroom was, jumping up and down and saying, oh, if we, were ethically allowed to buy stock, we would buy stock in Netflix. This is the greatest company. And it gave everyone a lecture about how you shouldn't own stock in a company just because you like them, that actually you guys didn't have a very defensible business, that Walmart and Blockbuster could get in at any second and absolutely kill you. And when Walmart announced they were and your stock went down to $2, I was moonwalking all over the newsroom and then was absolutely proven wrong.
Maybe that moonwalk is why we didn't interview together.
That could be it.
We have had a lot of challenges.
But what did you do right? What was it that I missed back then because my argument did make sense.
What was the argument?
Well, just that it wasn't, they had a bunch of DVDs already. Why couldn't they open up a call center and do this? I mean, you had hit on an interesting idea, but...
That's cool. Like you could just have a bunch of news, and then that's how it's news by the pound. DVDs. When Mark Randolph and I started Netflix back in '97, there was a tremendous amount of risk, not about competition, but about no one getting DVD players. So back in '97, DVD was an exotic, expensive, unusual format. And there was a competing format, DivX, which was a kind of a pay-per-view. You used it once. And then there was another one that was, it had a wrapper, and you opened it up, and after 24 hours, it smoked dark. And, so there was all these competing formats.
I can't believe that one didn't take off.
Yeah. You have good instincts. And, so for the first couple years, really our big challenges were, can we find anybody who's got a DVD player? Because, it was only 1 in 100, 1 in 50, and slowly the penetration started climbing, and it wasn't until 2000, 2001 when DVD player prices came down to about $149 that people started getting more of them, and then the business started taking off. And I think if you missed anything, it's the power of focus and desperation. So when you've got only one line of business, like you mail a lot of DVDs, then you're very focused on surviving. And yes, Blockbuster and Walmart have a lot of advantages, size, they own a lot of DVDs, but we had the advantage of we had to make it work or we were dead. And so you work a little bit harder, you're a little bit more focused, you're a little bit more maniacal in 100 different dimensions. And ultimately, one of the great ironies, there was a story in maybe '04, and a reporter visited us and visited Walmart. And Walmart's the king of low cost, right? Everything's very austere. But the Walmart.com headquarters is this giant building in South San Francisco with a huge lobby. It's gorgeous. And it was the anti-Walmart. And we were in this very beat, unbelievably down-market, warehousey space. And the way the reporter wrote it is basically we were the real Walmart, and they were this highfalutin Walmart.com thing. And so it's, just a series of small things, but mostly due to focus and desperation.
So the theme of this lecture series is supposed to be innovation. You're kind of lodged between two really stodgy industries, Hollywood and the postal system. I mean, I read on Quora you spend like $600 million a year mailing DVDs. Is that right?
That's right.
So, you're taking DVDs and you're sending them through the mail. Is that an innovative company? I don't mean that in a jerk way. I just mean,
No, not at all in a jerk way. Giving subscribers an incredible experience where they get vast selection, unlimited rentals for a flat fee, I think was very innovative. And obviously, we started the company focused on that eventually things were going to go to internet delivery. And that's why back in '97, we named the company Netflix and not DVD by mail. And we actually debated it a little because at least for the first 5 years, it was clear that if we were named DVD by mail, it would be a little easier to remember. We'd have a little more progress. It'd be, like pets.com. And luckily, we didn't go the path of Pets.com. And we realized that, in the future, people would be able to deliver this movies and TV shows over the internet. And what surprised us is how long it took. So if you look at our original business plan in '97, we said, well, we're starting on DVDs. But within 5 years, which seems very far ahead, right? When you think now about the world in 5 years. In 5 years, by 2002, half our business will be over the internet, delivery movies. And of course, we got to 2002 and it was 0. But we said, okay, well, we were off. So in 5 years, by 2007, half our business will be streaming. And we get 2007 and it was still 0. And then in 2007, we said, okay, by 2012, it's half, and we're going to be off because it's going to be much more than half. So what's incredible is that streaming and internet delivery went from nothing to starting in '07 to just explosive adoption of online video. And that's what we've been waiting for all these years, and we're just very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time when the wave hits. And that's what's really happened in this last year.
So as much as I'm giving you a hard time, I actually have been a huge admirer of a couple of things you've done at the company, and I want to talk about a couple of them because I think there's a couple of times actually you've not only proven me wrong, but really bucked what a lot of public company CEOs do in the way they run their business. One of them is just iteration and constant innovation on the user interface of the site. I feel like every time I go to Netflix, there's something a little bit different. And for a while, I would go and think, God, why can't I just drag and drop this to the top of the queue? And then I swear I would go the next day and suddenly I could drag and drop it to the top of the queue. It was, I don't know if you actually had some sort of surveillance system in my house, but we'll talk about that later. But most of the Web 1.0 generation that became big public companies with big names and big monopolies and big corporate structures haven't stayed that nimble and innovative in terms of product. How have you guys managed to do that?
I think, that all of the successful companies, whether that's Google or Facebook, Zynga, have the same thing, which is you're constantly remembering that the world can change on a dime. And Andy Grove famously said, well, only the paranoid survive. And everybody repeats that phrase as if that tells you what to do. And it actually doesn't, because the paranoid are delusional. And you can destroy a company by being delusional because you think every possible threat is going to upset the cart and the company veers radically between directions. And in fact, the key is to be more like a chess player, like good chess players prune as they think about possible moves in the future, which paths they're going to explore in their head. And they quickly scan the board and then they find a couple of key vulnerabilities and they might follow it out 5 or 6 or 7 moves. But it's only a very limited number of scenarios that they follow out to that depth. And that, if you don't prune correctly, you get checkmated because, you say this move looks good and then you find out it's not so good. And I think the key to business strategy is separating the real threats from the threats that aren't going to be real. And that if you take complacent management, to them the message, only the paranoid survive, says be on guard. That's a positive message. But once you're on guard, the hard work is separating what are the challenges that are really going to hit you and what not. And an example is Blockbuster, which is they get a bad reputation, but they were actually quite well run as a set of stores, and they had pretty sophisticated management. But their management got more concerned about VOD as a threat. Through the late 90s, they did a big deal with Enron in 2000, and they weren't asleep at the switch, sitting around smoking the big cigar, just rolling in money. They were really trying to figure out what's the future of the firm. But they looked at DVD by mail and said, that's not a threat. And so they essentially pruned the tree in a bad way, and they ignored it. So we even went public in 2002, and they still ignored it, and they didn't launch their competing service to 2004. And if they had launched 2 or 3 years earlier, they may well have won. And so a lot of it is timing, and in ways, we always remember that we got very lucky that they didn't take it seriously for a long time, and that in fact, these set of threats are everywhere.